What's up guys, I'm Phoenix Master 1 and welcome back for some more Fire Emblem Heroes, and this is going to be my comprehensive review of the Bridal Banner this year that features Bride CATRIA, Juno, Shanna, and Groom Saul. So I'll be going over the builds that you could run on these units and what I feel about these units, and if you do end up enjoying these kinds of banner reviews, then make sure to show some love to the YouTube couple known as like and subscribe. I would really appreciate that, and with that said, let us begin. Bride CATRIA is an axe flyer this time around with the preferred weapon Wedding Bell Axe. So this gives you -1 special cooldown, and at the start of turn, it will give CATRIA and allies within 2 spaces the Otter's status as well as triangle attack status. And Otter's buff here is similar to Gentle Dream buff that you get after using Peony's Dance. So you can pretty much teleport to any kind of ally within 2 spaces using it. And that's an extremely strong status in itself. And the fact that it's an upgrade of ground Otters means that you can pretty much give this effect to allies within 2 spaces even if they are flying units. So this effect works on any kind of unit, no matter their movement type. Same goes for triangle attack. And if CATRIA initiates combat or if she's within 2 spaces of an ally, then she can get +6 attack and speed during the combat. So triangle attack here is pretty much a new status that we have got now. It's kind of similar to Duo Pala and the White Wing weapon refines, but this is here as a status, and like I said, any kind of unit can make use of this in the player phase. So this only works in the player phase because it requires you to initiate combat and be within 2 spaces of 2 or more allies. So it definitely requires some ally support, so you cannot really go away from your team and expect this triangle attack to work. It pretty much gives you the Brave effect if you want to just simplify it. So the fact that she can give Brave effect to allies within 2 spaces, no matter their class, is extremely strong. And I can definitely see the Otter's buff and the triangle attack basically being a pretty good combo in Aether Raid's defense if you do decide to use her, because she could be used to enable Duo's hindrance, and she's not going to be as strong as someone like Duo Lif as a unit herself, but the utility that she brings from her weapon is definitely the most unique here, giving you the Otter's buff, which means that you can even free up the Sacred Steel slot of many of your dancers. Like Dancer Eldigan doesn't need to run aerobatics in Sacred Steel, instead he can go with Fortress Defense and just stack up his defense for Milla. Triangle attack will require some work because it will need 2 allies or more within 2 spaces of that unit. So many kind of cavalry units are not going to be able to make best use of this if they are getting baited out. Some kind of setup that can make units near them, and you could even just force the opponent to tank your team by using far save armor units. So it definitely has usage in Aether Raid's defense, and the utility that she brings is pretty much the most unique thing. Because she's no fallen female Morgan and definitely not Jill, despite her having such good offenses with 40 base attack and 41 base speed, which is really good. She's got Super Boon in both of those. Her bulk isn't really all that high, but on the defensive side it's kind of workable. Her Harmonize skill is going to be working on units from Shadows of Valentia and Binding Blade, and this Harmonize skill basically gives you the Desperation effect and an auto follow-up. So this Desperation does not have any kind of HP threshold, and because you're getting a free follow-up, it means that you can immediately attack. And if you've got the triangle attack buff on that unit, then they can basically quad attack without the foe even being able to counterattack back. So this Harmonize skill is definitely pretty useful for resonant battles, but in Aether Raid's offense, most teams are going to be having Duo's hindrance, so this is not going to be that easily usable basically there, but in resonant battles it's definitely useful. But still, I wouldn't really recommend any kind of free-to-play player to go out of their way to get harmonic units for resonant battles, because it's not going to be worth it, because these banners have no spark system, and the difference in rewards isn't really the biggest in resonant battles. So she has got some pretty good base kit here, so all you need to do is just give her reposition, and Blade Session is a really powerful Sacred Seal, so that could always be used. Gale Force and Heavy Blade are always going to be a really good combo because her weapon gives her -1 special cooldown, so Gale Force becomes a 4-turn special, which is really ideal. You can also use her in Aether Raid's offense as a Gale Force unit, and Triangle Attack is definitely going to be pretty helpful with a Gale Force team, especially when you can Wings of Mercy in and just teleport near the allies. You can also use her in Aether Raid's defense. Like I said, her Wedding Bell Axe's utility is really good, but you basically want to use her as a way of checking Brave Hector. So you want to run Quick and Pulse so that you can have a pre-charged Moonbow, and Lancebreaker is going to be helping you double attacking Hector. Most Brave Hectors are going to be running Special Fighters, so that's why the pre-charged Moonbow with Quick and Pulse is definitely going to be helping you. You can also run Odd Tempest because it does work with the Trace skills, so that is going to be pretty good for hit and run. And you can also go with Dive Bomb and have Susparo 3 as a slot A skill, and she can definitely be pretty strong with the triangle attack effect from her weapon. Finally, if you want to invest a bit more into her for Ether 8's defense, then you can definitely go with an ARD attack speed skill and have Wind Sweep. So Brave Hector is not going to be able to counter attack and you can just safely hit him. And Blade Session again is a pretty good Sacred Seal. You can also run Dive Bomb and Heavy Blade 4 at max investment. And if you're one of those people who plus and Merger, then for Arena she's going to be a pretty good unit as she can just hit and run with that Gale Force and also provide the Otter buff, which is going to be a big utility. Bride Juno is the 4-star focus unit on this banner, so it's relatively easy to plus and Merger compared to the 5-star locked units. She is a blue mage flyer and we have definitely got a couple of them over the years, but she definitely has a pretty good offensive stat spread compared to the previous ones, as we can compare Summer Loot, who was also a 4-star focus unit from last year's Summer banner. And Juno just has much better speed. Summer Loot at max investment can have, more Dragon Flowers, but still Juno is going to be having that extra speed, and that is quite significant in my opinion because damage reduction skills are pretty common. Not to mention we are getting crazy fast units because of the speed creep. Loot does have better resistance, but that's pretty much it. Overall, Juno is going to be a better offensive unit because of her stat spread, and she is going to be a bit more bulky on the defensive side. Bride Juno also has a pretty good base kit, having that aerobatics available at 4-star, which is a very coveted skill for any kind of dancer, honestly, or any kind of flying unit. Her weapon is Love Bouquet, which pretty much has Joint Drive attack and Joint Drive resistance built into it. It's not the greatest weapon, we do have better inheritable weapons in the blue tomes, but still, it's a pretty decent option for support, especially on dancers like Rinea, and also Bride Ninian, and Dancer Shigure. Any kind of dancer can definitely make pretty good use of this, and she also has attack speed farm logged at 5-star. On a budget, Bride Juno can definitely be used for Arena Assault for providing that support with her weapon, and you can just run Drive skills and Sacred Seal. You can also go with Ward Flyers, and if you want to have a better weapon, then the Fox Tome is definitely a pretty nice weapon that you could use with Desperation. A Blade Tome also works on a budget, and she can definitely pack a lot of punch with Blade Tomes, but Blade Tome in general have kind of fallen off because of the lull skills. Still, it's an option at low investment. And if you want to use her at higher merges, then these are definitely the builds that you could run. This could be utilized on lower merges, but many people might try to plus and merge her. So here are the builds. You can definitely go with Spooky Sensor from the Divine Code section and pair it up with Fury 4 and Attack Speed Rain from Brave Claude, and that can allow you to have pretty good overall stat spread with that double Fury, which is pretty synergetic with Desperation and the Brazen Sacred Seal. Flora Guide Plus from Summer Loot is also an option, and it does give you the in-combat debuffs on speed and resistance, and can also help support your allies, so it stacks up perfectly well with Speed Res Rain that you could run on slot C and have attack speed push 4. Juicy Wave Plus is honestly a really good option, especially now that we have got the Fortress skills that we could run in slot B. So it not only gives you the debuffs, but you can also use it to hit and run, and that is extremely good, while also having Desperation with the Juicy Wave Plus that is built into it, because Juno isn't really the bulkiest unit, so she does appreciate that Desperation, and the slot B can be used productively with the Fortress, so this is definitely a pretty expensive build that you can run, but honestly she's going to be really good if you could afford it. And you can also use her in Arena with that B dual flying 4. Having a range flyer is going to be a really good thing for Arena because she has got the mobility as well as the fact that she can hit at range. So if you just want to go with a budget type of build, not really investing too much, then you can pretty much run a support build. But ideally you want to run something like a Fox Tome and go with the range skill so that you can get better damage output. And you can definitely go with her defense with the Defense Refine and Sturdy Blow because that is going to be required for Arena. And you can always go with Pax Blooms Plus and also the Fortress skill, and this pretty much allows you to be a bit more bulky, especially with the self-healing as well as the farm skill that you could run as a Sacred Seal. Bride Shanna is a red bow flyer with Rose Quartz Bow as her preferred weapon. So if she's initiating combat or if she's within 2 spaces of an ally, then she can deal true damage based off 20% of her speed, and she also gets +6 attack and +6 speed during the combat. So getting true damage that scales off for speed is really good because it doesn't really have a maximum value of true damage that you can get out of it. So you can just speed stack and increase her damage output, and just with her base kit alone she can get like 11 true damage I believe, so that is pretty good honestly. Her offensive stat spread is pretty good, having that 42 base speed, which is always appreciated with this kind of weapon, and base 38 attack with that super boon. But most of the time you definitely want to go with the speed boon because you need that for getting the true damage. And she also has a pretty good base kit with having Susparo 3, attack, defense, Fortress, and the rain skill. So bow flyers are not really that common, we do not have too many of those, but the ones that we have are extremely good, like Legendary Claude, Kinshi Hinoka of course, who can provide you the amazing support, and also we have got Brave Claude, who has got the healing, which is pretty unique. So Shanna does face competition compared to those because Shanna pretty much hits really hard with her offensive stat spread and gets the true damage based off her speed, which is still pretty good, but other bow flyers are definitely going to be standing out more for many people because of the other unique things that you can do. Bride Shanna already has such a good base kit, so there's not much that you have to change. You can just go with Susparo or Blade Session or attack speed solo. Desperation is something you can run in slot B over Fortress because she's not the bulkiest unit, and Rose Quartz Bow only gives you the offensive stats. It doesn't really give you anything defensive. In Aetherite's defense, she can also work because she can get true damage out of her weapon, which is really good, and Wind Sweep can basically protect her against someone like Altina or Brave Hector or Brave Edelgard, which are really common. So that's something that you could do, and Wind Sweep does make her really annoying for the opponent because she's still going to be doing a lot of damage with that true damage that you can get from her weapon. And finally, at max investment, you can go with Steady Impact, and that gives you extra defense, which is really good with the attack debuff from her slot B and slot C skill. And Deadeye is definitely an option that you could use on her because she does have pretty good damage output, and that just allows you to cut through the damage reduction skills, which is really good. Sadly, unlike many of the bow flyers who have -1 special cooldown or just bow units in general, she doesn't really have a true turn Deadeye, which means that she's not going to be able to trigger this in a single round of combat. So at higher investments, this is definitely an expensive build that you could utilize. Groom Saul is a cavalry staff unit, and he does bring some excellent fodder. Honestly, he is probably the best healer fodder because there are just so many good things that healers can appreciate. His inheritable weapon is definitely really unique because it gives +6 to all of the stats of the healer and also just nullifies any kind of visible bonuses of the opponent. But you of course need to be within 3 spaces of 2 allies who have got the ally support going on, which is not the hardest thing to do, but there are also other staff which are just unique or can pretty much do the same thing, like Palm Staff for example. So it is a pretty good weapon, but most of the time you can definitely fodder him for other things that he has got. He has got Return Plus, which is the best assist skill for any kind of healer because it's a healing reposition, so that is really good. And he has also got Colorless Dual Cavalry 4, and I've made an entire video going over the best options and the tier list with the Colorless Dual Cavalry 4, so definitely make sure to check that out in the description. And he also has Odd Recovery, which is going to be a really big thing for Aetherite's defense. So all in all, he's most of the time going to be used as a fodder despite him having pretty good speed stat at base 37 and an attack stat of base 33. He also does have higher resistance, but the thing is that as a staff cavalry unit, there's competition in Brave Veronica and young La Rochelle, and even Elise with her weapon Refine. So Saul isn't really going to be as unique as any of those staff units who've got preferred weapon. So unfortunately, most of the time he's going to be used as a fodder, but still if you want to use him, then here are some of the builds that he could run. On a budget, you can definitely go with Live to Serve and have Blade Session, and you definitely want to run Wrathful Staff that you could obtain from the Divine Code section, and Blade Session is going to be a really good skill on healers because they don't have too many offensive options. You can also use him in Aetherite's defense because he does have Odd Recovery on his base kit, and if you're not really decided on if you want to fodder him or not, then just he himself can be used. But in my opinion, you can definitely go with Palm Staff, which is going to be much more helpful because Observant Staff does not work in the hands of AI because you cannot have any kind of ally support when the AI is going to be controlling. So you gotta go with Palm Staff. And you can also go with Gravity Plus and Fortress skill, which is the hit and run combo, which is really disgusting, but he can only have Wrathful Staff, which is gonna be not that good for his damage output. And finally, at higher investments or max investment, you can definitely go with a premium skill like Attack Speed Catch and have Blade Session as a Sacred Seal, and that can just boost up his offenses by a lot. This year's Bridal Banner is definitely going to be skippable for most of the people because None of these units really stand out that much, except for maybe Bride CATRIA because of her weapon, but still, if you have any kind of friends who want to build up these units, then make sure to share this video with them. And I want to thank all of my YouTube members for their constant support, and if you enjoyed, then please be sure to leave a like and a comment, helps me tremendously, and be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell, because YouTube sub boxes are about as functional as observant staff in the hands of AI. So with that said, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.